Okay, moving on. This is if you are watching this video first, this is the second video in a series. So if you're watching this first video first, I would suggest that you take a look through my videos and choose the one prior to this. This is part two. So anyway, part one, we basically drew ourselves a figure. Part two, um, I've set up a stencil. Oh, that was kind of funny. Yeah, so I set up the I'll just show you my layers again. So this is the body layer at the bottom. I've turned on preserve transparency on. I've set it up as a stencil layer, and what this will do is, hang on, I'm just trying to stick my layers window in the right place. What this does is, now that I'm on the undergarments layer, if I start painting on it, as you can see, it's constraining whatever lines that I make, whatever shapes that I make, whatever paint that I make, it's constrained to the figure. So as I said earlier, we design from the inside out. So in this case, I'm going to, first thing I'm actually going to put on is the hairline, because I don't like leaving my characters kind of all, bald, and it doesn't look very attractive. So, hair is kind of the first thing I think of putting on my characters. So in this case, you can think about hairlines. I can figure that this person, if they had very, very short cropped hair, I think about where, there we are, I can think about things like, where that hair goes to. And so I can introduce things like a hair parting. So yeah, I mean, we do deal with clothing, blah, 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 but I mean, hair is the one kind of fashion accessory that you never take off, I hope, But anyways, I can design it into several fractured fragments. And, as you can see, I'm putting pretty clear border delineations in the parting. And, that is something that you can, do if you please. All right. And all right, so I have, again, this is where you can introduce things like asymmetry. If you want, you can make the haircut, or you can make the hair asymmetrical. I find that hair partings, or the hair as it attaches to the head, is probably the most asymmetrical part of a person. Some people are symmetrical. I know that my hair, tends to part on one side. So I mean, if you're going to do it, then now is a good time to introduce that in there, and it can be pretty interesting. Okay, and all right. So now that I have the hair on there, actually, I think I put that on the wrong layer. I'm going to create a new layer. So this one will be for hair, and actually, I'm even going to name it as front hair. So there's front hair. Actually, I can, yeah, okay, I'm going to call it front hair, and it's just going to sit there. And then there's the undergarments layer that sits underneath that. And let's see what layer this is. Okay, so that's this one. I've accidentally, I should just paste that up there, and then I should clear out this layer. So, okay, so I'm just basically moving my layer data around so that now the front hair layer, there we go. Okay, so now it's on the right. Everything is properly sorted. Okay, so let's put that back here. And we can continue. It's like these are things that it seems kind of a bit neurotic to have to go through and keep checking on these things. But again, it's like I always say, it's just deal with it now, because if you don't, it will. You either deal with it or it will deal with you. So, let's see. So anyway, when it comes to the undergarments, we are dealing with the layer of clothing that is now closest, to the skin. I'm going to turn on that stencil once more and think, which parts, how much of the clothing do I, how much of the body do I want seen? How much do I want covered up? So you can work one of two ways. You can either, if it's a summer dress, if it is a dress, if you, or what, if it's a summer dress, then you can just, you can just add bits of clothing as you feel, is appropriate. Otherwise, you can work the other way around, in which case the whole body is clothed. Then you can, I'm not going to I'm not painting. I'm just using this thing in erase mode, so in Photoshop, or, the idea is I'm setting it up to cut. So if you're in Photoshop, you can use the lasso tool and delete. Okay, so anyway, yeah, you can delete clothing, you can delete segments to show how the clothing is revealed, show which parts of the body are revealed. If you want, you can make it so that, the this part would be, visible, or you can even make it so that, small bits here, you can, cut holes right through the fabric like that. And it's kind of it's a lot of fun. Like you can just at this stage, we are already getting into some pretty cool clothing design stuff. So, think to yourself, how much of the arm do you want exposed, right? Do you want that, or would you prefer to have the shoulders exposed? And, do you want shoulder length gloves? She's dressed like a ninja, like these are things, these are options, that you have that are available to you. So really, this is kind of the most, well, the figure is the most important, but this is going to be second most important to your character design. You can choose how much of the legs are exposed, and you can choose to cut the skirt right there, or you can leave that closed, or if you want, you can have just a little bit showing. It's really up to you how you want to approach this. I can open that up. You can have so many different options. And this is where it actually gets, this is where it actually gets to be a lot of fun. So, I mean, you can, cut that, and then you can also put in, slight cuts like that. You can do the same around. So generally speaking, whenever I do garments, I have a kind of theme that I put in there. It's like, if in this case, there's that kind of a split. So, I mean, I can put splits, in multiple places on the garment, right? And that, gives the clothing kind of a theme. There's this repetitive design. There's a repetitive element that goes through all of the clothing. I'm actually going to go back to that figure layer once more and unlock the transparency, and I'm going to better solve that problem there before it comes back to haunt me. And yeah, okay, so I'm trying as much as my friends know that I poke fun at Rob Liefeld, it really is no excuse if I follow in his footsteps as well. Apologies to any Rob Liefeld fans out there. Okay. So moving on, that already is, brings us a huge step forward in terms of clothing and garment design. It doesn't have to be black either. At this point, with the undergarment design, I can lock the transparency of that undergarment design, and I can start choosing, other colors for that. I can change all of the clothing because I have that, everything on a separate layer, and I can lock the transparency. So, you can really play around with colors. What I would highly suggest that you do, seeing as we only have 4 minutes left in this part of the video, or 5 minutes left in this part, is there's a wonderful site called colorlovers.com, and me just turn on a zooming tool. Okay. So colorlovers.com. This is a really good website. And from there, if you go to the palettes section, you can see all sorts of color palettes. These are, it's hit and miss. Some are not so good, some are better or whatnot. And, find one that strikes your fancy. Find one that you like. You can sort them by favorites, and there's, so many. There's so many. And then also the other nice thing about these color schemes in this case is that you can see that they include proportions, right? So they show that it's predominantly this gray color. You use a lot of this gray. There's a little bit of that black, and then there's a few accents. There's 3 accent colors. If anything, that's like a border color right there. And so you can use that. So I like these color schemes which have proportions built into them. Some of them are all even, but I much prefer the ones that have proportions. And you can sort by new or most loved or most views and so on and so forth. And then if you are adventurous, you can go to tools and you can go to Copazzo. And Copazzo is a this thing lets you choose your own color scheme. So I can just choose any of these colors. I can just I can say, all right, so let's put that color in there, and you've got all these like triadic and blending and blah blah blah, blah modes, which I just generally don't use. I just use the best color schemer of all, the best. It's called your eyes. So use your eyes. If it doesn't look good, don't put it in. On the other hand, you could choose a whole bunch of random colors and try and make it work. Sometimes I find that if I find myself making the same clothing choices all the time, the same clothing designs, then I will go in and I will just throw in crazy colors and see what I can do with that. Okay, so I've gone in and I've chosen, my 5 colors, and then you've got these little handles here. So with these little handles, you can size them and change, and you can drag them and change, sort of how the colors are ordered, which is pretty darn sexy. So work in your own proportions. Generally speaking, when it comes to colors, the more bright and the more bright and vibrant the color is, the less of it that I use. The more I treat it as an accent color, because sometimes when you have a big crazy color and you only have a little bit of it, it really attracts the attention. It makes people want to look at it. Whereas if you were to, make a big noisy color and then just kind of make tons and tons of that color, it actually tends to divert people's eyes away. It's an eyesore, and people tend to look away. On the other hand, what you can do is you can take some colors and you can use a lot of them and then treat the dark colors as the accent. So you can invert things. It's just don't do many clashing colors. Don't do fully saturated green, fully saturated red, fully saturated pink, fully saturated blue, because then it winds up looking like something that's been done on DeviantArt that looks absolutely horrible and disgusting, and it's basically unsalvageable. So you want to kind of avoid that. Make your clothing easy on the eyes. Don't give people an excuse to look away. Instead, you want something that is striking, that grabs their attention, and it is perfectly okay to spend some time. Look at how long I'm spending, just pushing colors around. Just to find that perfect proportional mix, and you'll see how this. You'll soon see how this. Why I'm spending so much time on it. You'll see how this actually affects the actual drawing. So I'm pretty happy with that right there. Okay, so anyway, let's split this up into another part.